Welcome to Alberta Conservation Association's Harvest Your Own podcast, the resource for everything hunting, navigating through the field, the butcher shop, and the kitchen. Life is all about great food. Let's get started.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Brad Fenson, an avid outdoor enthusiast who has worked as a freelance journalist, photographer, and public speaker for over 3 decades. I have hunted, fished, and foraged all my life and hope to share my passion for the outdoors. Along the way, I want to encourage everyone to harvest wild proteins and enjoy the satisfaction of providing the next meal for your family. Our goal is to educate, entertain, and inspire individuals to get outdoors and create a connection between food, health, and your future meals. Welcome to the podcast today. We've got a special guest from Southern Alberta. Alberta born and bred in the grassland down close to the Montana border. Jalen Hulit, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brad.
We're talking today, give people a little bit of a background about you, farming, ranching background, interested in the environment, the ecosystem. So you got into the biological sciences. You now work for ACA, and some of your passions and stuff are waterfowl hunting.
You bet.
And I'm sure if you grew up in that country, you might know a little bit about antelope, mule deer, maybe some whitetails, elk.
Oh yeah, all of that. Yeah, big game was most of my childhood was spent hunting big game. So.
Right. So you come from a hunting family?
I do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep. Everyone in the family?
Everyone. Yeah. Even my mom has shot a few deer.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And did you grow up eating wild meat?
Yes. Yeah. Love it.
Love it. See, it's an interesting thing to talk about because I talk to a lot of people. It's like, well, my dad hunted and my mom always overcooked it. Nobody liked it. We gave it away. We made sausage. We did this. But it's always a great story when you hear somebody say, we grew up as a hunting family and we love it. You know, you never have enough in the freezer. We put it to good use. And
sausage making day is always booked in the calendar, and everybody comes down and gives a hand, and it's always a family event, and it's great. Yeah.
Big social event.
Exactly.
You know, I remember that as a kid growing up too. We used to go out to my uncle's farm, and we had our own homemade sausage recipes, and my dad still loves it because you got to put pickling spice and boil it, and then you drain it off and use that water and so much salt, and we'd convert my uncle's pump house into a smokehouse and smoke all the sausage, and it was always very memorable for me as growing up as a kid. So I can relate to what you're telling me about family experiences getting together to, for the special sausage day at the end of the season.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So the real reason I brought you in is to talk about man's best friend, a hunter's best friend, and that's dogs. Like, what role does a dog play in hunting?
Oh, they're a huge, they play a huge role. I think they're one of the biggest conservation tools that a hunter can have. Lots of times you shoot, especially when you're waterfowl hunting, you shoot a bird, cripples, falls in the cattails. You or I aren't going to be able to go out there and retrieve that bird, right? But with a dog, they're able to mark that bird, and they bring a lot more of those birds back to hand that otherwise you might not be able to find.
Yeah, I mean, if you're hunting waterfowl over water, you really have to question whether you should actually do it because it's really hard to retrieve all the birds.
Exactly. No.
And if you drop one into the cattails, you certainly don't have a nose like a good lab. And it's amazing. All that cattail fluff and the water and the smell of the marsh, they're able to pick out the scent of that bird on I don't know if it's on the surface of the water or just the vegetation, but they follow it and they find them.
Oh yeah, I know. I don't know either, but it's crazy. I have had to learn to trust my lab. You think he's hunting in the wrong spot or trying to find the bird in the wrong spot, but no, he's right on it. And
That's right.
You just got to learn to trust them and let them do their thing. And more often than not, they come back with the bird in their mouth.
It's funny you say that. I was out goose hunting yesterday, and we winged a speckle belly, and it went down over the hill quite a ways. And the dog handler, my buddy that he's had labs his whole life, went over, and he said the dog was chasing the scent so hard that he'd get off it and would have to come back. And he said, I didn't call him off. He knew what he was doing, and he let him do it. And that goose had already gone about a half mile. Wow. And if you didn't have a dog, there's no way you would have found it.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's pretty cool watching them do that, watch them work.
So did you grow up with dogs?
We did. I grew up living on the farm. We always had a dog, never really working dogs. They were just the typical farm dog. So this is my first dog that is actually workable, and it's great. So he's 1.5 years old now.
Yep. So you're a waterfowl hunter. I'm sure you grew up hunting Hungarian partridge and pheasants and sharptails, and you hit that day where it's like, you know what, I want to get a dog. How do you even decide what species to look at?
Yeah, it was tough. Like you say, I grew up hunting, growing up in southern Alberta and the Montana border. There's not a huge opportunity for waterfowl, so I was doing a lot more upland. So I did start looking at pointers and things like that for upland hunting, and then going to college, I started waterfowl hunting, and now that's my biggest passion. That's all I do. If I had one more hunting excursion to do, it'd be waterfowl hunting, and so that changed my mind. And from that point on, it was always a lab. So I just started looking, and you kind of have to do your research on different breeders and things like that.
Right. I think labs are pretty common, and some of the dog owners out there are probably rolling their eyes because I said species when I should have said the breed of dog. Yeah. And you get into the different breeds, and people are very passionate about certain breeds, and the lab owners think that labs are the best, and Chesapeake owners think they're the best, and it's just good that people have the passion. But the real key is to make sure that you spend time with your dog and train them right. Exactly. And, we'll get into that, but we're going to share a little bit of information on where people can go to find out more about bird hunting in general. Maybe there's some information on waterfowl hunting or big game or family sausage recipes.
This podcast is produced for Harvest Your Own, a program dedicated to those who want to reconnect with food and health through their experiences outdoors. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a resource for individuals to learn more about hunting and the outdoors. There's information to get you started and ensure that your compass stays pointed in the right direction to be successful. Where's your next meal coming from?
Well, in your case, your next meal is coming from your dog's mouth, probably.
Hopefully, yeah.
I understand you've got a pretty interesting story about how you obtained your dog.
Yeah. So I, like I was talking about earlier there, I was doing some research on where to get a dog. I figured there was time. I was getting tired of having to climb out of the blind, chasing all the cripples down and things like that. So I figured it was time, and I was doing some research. And then a teacher of mine at Lethbridge College came up to me. I've hunted over his dogs. He has labs as well. Hunted over him many times, and he said that he was breeding one of his females, and he was looking for people to buy the puppy. And I figured there's no better time. I didn't have to travel anywhere, right in town. I've hunted with the female who was getting bred, as well as actually the male dog as well. So it was perfect. I've seen both of the parents of the puppy work, and I couldn't have happened any better, for sure.
It almost sounds like he groomed you as a hunter to get you a dog.
Yeah, almost. It was. Well, Lethbridge College, they had to do a Ducks Unlimited mentored hunt.
Right. And
that was my first true experience of waterfowl hunting. So yeah, you could say that because of him, I got into waterfowl hunting, and that's how the dog came to be.
Right. Let's touch on that briefly, because a lot of people would like to get into hunting and really don't know where to start. Ducks Unlimited does offer a great mentorship program. Just tell me a little bit about that, because obviously you're now you're hooked on waterfowl. It has changed your life.
Yeah. So at the college, and I'm sure there's other places that put it on as well, they do a mentorship program where they have mentors who have hunted waterfowl for many, many years. They take college kids out who, maybe never have hunted waterfowl before or don't have the experience or kind of know where to go, and take them out and show them that experience, show them where to go and things like that. And yeah, I've seen many people go through the program. I started as a mentee my first year of college, and by the end of it, I was a mentor.
Oh, good.
So,
how many people at an event?
Well, it depends. That one, there's usually probably around 20 to 30 mentees on the event. But, I mean, like I said, Delta Waterfowl puts some on around Lethbridge too, and they're a little smaller and things like that. So it just depends on the event.
So just for my own curiosity, did the mentorship programs, did people use dogs?
Yes, they did. Yeah, and that was, some people do. There's college students that do the mentoring as well. So some of them don't have dogs. So it was always a cool experience for a new hunter to get put in a group with a dog and watch the dog work, because that's sometimes even as funner than the actual hunt itself, is watching the dog work.
And did you hunt over water, or were you in the fields?
My first hunt was actually a puddle in the field.
Yep.
So, and the ducks were hitting it like crazy, and it couldn't have been better. We shot our limits of ducks, all of us that were there. I think there was 3 of us that hunted. It was the first hunt, and all of us shot our 8 ducks, and it was great.
We got roosters flying by us in every direction here. We're actually doing the podcast live from the Tabor Pheasant Festival. We're at the novice hunt, and you have generously brought your young lab along to do some of the retrieving for the first-time hunters.
I have, yeah. My 1.5-year-old black lab. He's out and he's eager, and he's been doing a great job so far.
Yeah. So you learned this through all this stuff and got your passion from a mentorship program, and now you're here at the Pheasant Festival mentorship program, passing that on. And of course, you have your dog, just like your mentors did. And do you think it influenced any of the people out there today?
Oh, I think it did huge. I think it did. I have many of the hunters after, when I bring them their bird, after my dog retrieves it, saying, "Oh, I can't believe this dog's awesome, and well, I want a dog like this," and all that kind of stuff. It really helps with the experience, right? You want to get everybody the best experience you can, and especially with upland hunting and as well as waterfowl, dogs are a big part of it.
Right. When it comes to hunting dogs, though, you don't just buy a puppy and end up with a dog that can retrieve, listen, use its nose, do all those things. There's a lot of work goes into it.
There is. If you put in your work before and you do your research, you find a dog that's with good genetics and you get a pup. So they have that instinct already there, but it's bringing that instinct out of them and making it, being able to control it.
Right. And some dogs have more instinct than others.
Correct.
And some have a lot more drive than others.
Yes.
Where's your dog fall into the spectrum?
I would say, training, he didn't have the most drive, which made it a little worrisome, but until he gets on birds. But yeah, so I think he's kind of in the middle. He's not, he has an off switch. So when you get home, he shuts his hunting drive off and he's at home. It's home time. But when he gets in the field, that drive gets turned back on and he's rip roaring, ready to go.
As soon as he gets the scent of a bird, his mind, there's something that goes click.
Exactly.
And it changes his outlook on life.
Exactly. It really does. Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Sweet. Where do you start? You talked about finding the right breed and finding a dog that has the drive and the willpower and the background. A lot of people that breed hunting dogs, they try to find the dog that's the most energetic, the most spirit, the best nose, and they breed it with another dog with the same genetics so that you get these super hunting dogs. It doesn't always work. It's like people, not every kid in a family is the same. They all have different personalities, but a good example, a friend of mine trained golden retrievers for years, and he had one of the best dogs at the trials. He won lots of ribbons and stuff, but he only hunted real birds to please his owner. He wouldn't even run out to retrieve them. He'd walk out, pick it up, and walk back. Now, I know your dog, watching it today, like he could barely wait for you to give him that command. He sat there just like a champion, watching things. He'd watch the bird go down. He marked it. And sometimes it would be 10 seconds before you could send it because, they got to clear the guns. They got to do all this stuff. But boy, when you sent him, he was on fire.
Yeah, I think it's funny you say that. I think he's hunting as much for enjoyment for himself as it is for me. He's not, obviously he's retrieving the birds back to me, but that's his favorite part is once that bird gets in his mouth, that's what he lives for. So
I think that's the key to finding the right dog is finding one that enjoys hunting. A lot of people say as much as I do, but I think the dogs actually like it more.
Oh yeah.
Like if you got the right dog, he lives to hunt.
Oh yeah. This morning, we were out doing this novice hunt yesterday too, and this morning when I woke up, my alarm went off. He was sitting at the door, ready to go with his nose at the door. So I think he was more ready than I was. So yeah.
I always love it at the end of a hard day too, where you run them lots and they lay down on the couch or the floor, and you can see them dreaming, reliving all those memories of them getting the birds, and they're whimpering and whining and twitching. It's kind of fun to relive.
Exactly. Yeah. So
you get a puppy. Where do you start? Do you keep pheasant wings, duck wings, and
all that? I actually, I start basic. So it's the sit, the stay, start, recall. So here, all that. I started as soon as I brought him home. I get his food dish with his food in it. I tell him to sit and then give him his food. So you just kind of start small and basic from there, and then you just build up and make it more advanced and stuff like that as you go along.
Right. And be patient.
Exactly. Yes, patience is key. It's patience and fun. Those are the two key things. You know, a puppy, they're learning, especially with me, this is my first dog. They're learning as much as I am. So, you know, if I'm not having fun doing it, neither is he. So the key is to have fun, be patient, and you know, it all works out.
You know, that's great advice, because if you're not having fun, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. You know, and you know, there is times where I will admit it gets frustrating.
Right.
You know, for sure, if the dog's not doing something that you want to do, but you got to remember, it's especially when they're this age, they're a puppy, and you know, they're not going to be 100% trained, you know, so you got to be patient, and you know, if you get frustrated, you know, take the afternoon off from training or whatever you're doing. So
well, you got good advice about starting with the basics, you know, like sit, stay, those simple commands. Did you train them with hand commands at the same time?
No, I didn't. I just did the sit and the stay. The reason for that, I guess, being was, well, one, I was new to training, so stuff was still popping up as I started. But I'm working on hand signals right now for, you know, back here or back away kind of casting stuff. So, so that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm working on the hand signals right now. But no basic stuff. It was just voice commands, and then, you know, with that sit in the stay, you can advance that, and you got your e-collars and your whistles and things like that as you move along.
Right. But it establishes control right from the start.
Yes.
And in order to have a dog that you're going to enjoy in the field, it has to be controlled.
That's right.
So, you know, even, you know, some people might take it for granted, but having your dog sit there today and watch all those novice hunters pull the trigger and not break, not even stand up, do exactly what he was told, that's a feat in training.
It is, yeah. It's cool to see all the summer work paying off finally. You know?
Right.
You know, you can see baby steps as you're training throughout the summer, but to put it all together out here at the novice hunt, it's pretty cool to watch. And you know, I find myself sometimes just sitting back and watching him as opposed to hunting myself. So
right, yeah, it was a lot of fun watching him. It influenced a lot of people. Back to the training, you learn the basics, the sit, stay, all the rest of it. Where do you interject the first part of birds?
For me, it was wings, like you say. I had, you know, that previous fall, I kept a few duck wings, and you know, you tie them to a string and let them chase them around. As you know, I did it probably he was 8 weeks old. I was doing that, you know, letting them get his first taste of wings just for fun. It wasn't training. I mean, I guess technically it was, because you're getting them used to scent and everything like that. But it was just playing around, you know, throwing the wing, letting him pick it up in his mouth, and you know, feel the feathers and things like that. But
right, and smell them, get used to the smell.
Yes,
right? Get
exactly.
it imprinted in his brain.
Yeah, get him imprinted, exactly.
Yeah. And has he always had a soft mouth, or did you have to go through periods like trying to soften his mouth so he wasn't crunching, chewing?
No, he's always had a soft mouth. The thing that he would always do is when we were retrieving, he would bring whatever he was retrieving back to about 5 to 3 yards away from me, and then drop it, and then come to me, and then look back at it and want me to go pick it up.
Oh,
so that was where he was never a hard mouth dog, but that's what we had to work on the most. So that was
there was no hand delivery.
No, there wasn't. We had to train that into him. I did. So.
And were you able to change his habit?
I did. Okay. Yes, I did. It took a long time. It was the most difficult part of the training. It was, I will admit, probably the least amount of fun of the training. I had to force fetch him, but I'm glad now that I did. It makes a world of a difference, because now he delivers right to hand. So
that's good. Well, you know, it's funny we talk about having a soft mouth, and for people that don't know, it's dogs that are overly aggressive sometimes grab into a bird and bite through the skin, and some of them are aggressive enough to actually crunch bones. So I've seen trainers at an early age take a fairly stiff, wiry hairbrush and tie a wing on the back of it and throw it as a retrieving tool, and the dog learns real quickly that you don't bite down on it. They pick it up real gingerly, and it just trains them to have a soft mouth. I don't know, there's probably other tricks as well, but that's the one that I was familiar with. Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard of that one or not.
No, I haven't heard that. I know some people, they kind of get a wooden dowel and get a piece of barbed wire and do it. So same thing, you know, and do it that way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just teach them to be gentle.
Yeah.
You start with the wings, you throw them.
Yep.
Do you save birds to use actual birds for retrieving?
I did. Yeah, I did. I shoot a few ducks. You start out small, so you start with your teal and things like that as they're young, and then you kind of build up from there and go to your widgeons and mallards, and then snow geese and Canada geese after that.
Right.
So had all those in my freezer the past winter. They're taking up most of the space.
So how do you teach a young lab to pick up a big Canada goose?
It's tough. It was more trial and error by him than anything,
right.
Because by that time you introduce the geese, he knows he's been trained to retrieve and bring everything to hand, so he knows that. Right. So it's more him figuring out for himself how to pick it up and bring it to you. So when we were first doing it, there was times he spent 3 minutes out with the goose in the field trying to figure out how to bring it back to me correctly, and he'd pick it up, drop it, go back, get it, pick it up, drop it again, grab it by its wing. No, that's not right. Yep. And then, they kind of just eventually figure out, okay, this is the best way of picking them up and bringing them to you.
Yeah, and then when you're out hunting, every once in a while you have a lively one and they have to figure it out again.
Exactly, yeah.
Because they're struggling all the time. But it's interesting you say that, there's different breeds of labs and some of them are smaller than others. I've seen some of them that have different techniques where they'll grab a wing, or they can get under the wing and grab the body, but sometimes the wing gets up over their eyes and they can't always see where they're going.
that happened actually. The Chester, my dog here yesterday, he got a pheasant and it was still alive, and its wing, same thing, right in the face, and he did a circle. He couldn't figure out which way was back to me, and I had to use my voice, keep on yelling at him till he came, because he couldn't see me. It's pretty funny.
Yeah, it is. We had a dog do that the other day, and it actually almost took the blind down, because he knew where we were. He could hear us, but he missed the opening and ran right into the blind with the goose.
That's funny. Yeah, it's funny watching them do stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, there's a ton of information on Harvest Your Own. We don't have a lot on dog training and picking dogs, so I think that's something we're going to have to look at for the future. We might have to get you to do some tips on training, or some guidelines for finding the right breed or dog, and get it onto Harvest Your Own, where people can find more information.
This podcast was made possible by Alberta Conservation Association and the Harvest Your Own community. If you're interested in harvesting your own food, there's a comprehensive collection of information. To gain insight and knowledge, head to the field, harvest your own protein, prepare it, and taste the results. HarvestYourOwn.ca is a library of information, from getting started and geared up to processing, butchering, and cooking wild game, to make the connection between health and food.
The biggest thing on that you can tell people is, have fun, enjoy it. It's going to be your lifelong best hunting buddy you ever have. So, enjoy every minute of it. It'll be great.
And obviously, he's a year and a half old. Did you hunt him the first year?
I didn't. No, I got him out on. I shot a couple pheasants and had him play around with it, but there was no real hunting. He was all training. As much as you want to train, or I wanted to hunt him, and people probably do. The advice I got, and I stuck with it, and glad I am, is you can skip that first year, because you're going to have 10, 12 more years with him, and you want him to be trained to the best of his abilities and what you want.
Right. So, how do you introduce him to gunshot?
Everybody kind of does it differently. You don't want to just stick them right beside a gun and fire it off, because that's going to scare them. You want them to be doing something they like to do, right. And so have them playing, whether it's playing fetch, playing with if you have kids, playing with the kids in the backyard or at the farm or whatever, and start out small, start with a 22, and just fire that off and see his reaction or the dog's reaction, and if there's no reaction, then you can move closer or grab a higher caliber gun and just build up from there.
Yeah, it's very important. It's something that you have to think about ahead of time. You can't just take them out and, like you said, fire off a 12 gauge beside them, because I've got a buddy that's got a wonderful dog, and he can trial, he can retrieve, he loves doing it, but you pull the trigger on the gun and he's under the truck.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So it is a big deal. And I've had friends that train a lot of dogs, and they say from an early age with a pup, what they do is they get a wooden spoon and they pound their food bowl, make loud noises, bang, 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 get them used to it. And then, like you said, get out and shoot a pellet gun, just so they get used to seeing it first, and then a 22 and work up from there. Yeah. And it does make a big difference. And in the end, it's good for the dog, and you're not going to have one that's afraid of gunfire, because that's like the worst case scenario for somebody looking for a dog to hunt, and you pull the trigger and the dog's looking for a place to hide.
Yeah, that's funny. I with Chester, I introduced him that same way you were talking about. When he was eating, I would grab two pans and smash them together and make as much noise in the kitchen as possible, and it didn't seem to bother him, because with the lab, the food is is their favorite, so didn't bother him there. And actually, I introduced him to the smaller caliber guns, but his first 12 gauge was last year here at Pheasant Fest. He was tethered to my truck watching the event, and it was the first 12 gauge shot. The pheasant fell out of the sky, so it was pretty great. He wasn't scared for sure. He tried ripping the leash off to go retrieve the bird. So.
What other steps then? Like, would you say your dog's finished?
No, never finished. The dog's never finished. There's always stuff you can do.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the next? We've talked about early commands. We talked about introducing them to feathers, making sure they're not gun shy. How do you start getting into the actual hunting scenarios?
I kind of just build off that training. You're doing all these small steps for the hunting scenarios. So once you get these steps complete, and if you're training for them to be in the blind, you get that done. Then you introduce the gunfire, that goes good. Then you bring all that together, So this past August, I was out at a little piece of land, and I had his blind. He sat in the blind and threw the dummy and shot the shotgun, and he went and retrieved the dummy and brought it back, and you just introduce him that way, and then you bring him out to the field once you feel he's ready and up to the standards that you want him trained, because everybody wants him trained differently.
Right. And you told us you sat the first season out on purpose, good advice, and, did that. Tell me what your first hunting experience was and what it did for you.
It was amazing. It was this September, so I actually wasn't finished my force fetching with him, so I took the first 3 weeks of September when I could have been hunting him and finished that. I almost didn't, but I'm glad I did finish it, because I wanted to hunt him so badly. But I'm glad I stuck with the process. And then so I went out with myself and one other person. So it was just the two of us and the dog. The first few flights that came in, I never shot. It was just a duck shoot in the field.
Right.
The ducks couldn't have been cooperated any better. They came right in, and dog was in the blind. The other person with us shot one duck. It fell 10 yards in front of my dog, went and retrieved it, and he's been hooked ever since. He knows exactly what's going on every time we get up at 4 a.m. Yep. It was great. By the end of it, both of us were shooting, and he was still in the blind, no breaking or anything.
Yeah, 10 yards is a pretty easy retrieve for the first one.
Exactly, yeah. It couldn't have been any better. It was great.
Any long retrieves, blind retrieves?
No blinds yet. We're still working on the casting right now, so we haven't done any blinds. But yeah, there's been a long retrieves. I think a goose, he been about 500 yards ish, and then there was a pheasant here today that was over the hill and down into the little
dip. That.
Probably, I don't know how far that was at, 600 yards.
Yeah,
probably something like that. So yeah, he's got a good nose, and he knows how to mark a bird.
Oh, good.
Sure.
So where do you go from here? What are you going to do next with him?
So I'm just building on all the stuff we already have. So he's done all the basic obedience and basic training. Then you take that basic, move into more advanced training. So right now we're doing casting with hand signals, working on blinds and everything like that. So hopefully for next year we have that down and are starting that. So yeah, it's an everyday event. It's 1 or 2 hours every evening. Instead of me going home to turn on the TV or something like that and watch the hockey game or whatever, I'm out with him and working and stuff like that. It's great.
Yeah, that was my question. You already answered it, but is it a daily commitment or weekly, but you're at least 2 hours a day? I
am. And it's not 2 hours of training. It's 2 hours that I'm with him, whether it's on a walk, whether there's some training involved, whether we're driving out to a place to run and flush some birds and things like that. We just do different things, and training isn't the whole 2 hours. Training's probably, we're out for the run for 2 hours, and every half an hour we do 5 to 10 minutes of training, and then it's back to play, running around, and then 5 or 10 minutes training, because they get drained and they get tired of you telling them what to do too sometimes, right? So you gotta take it slow and
obviously you train them as a waterfowl dog.
Yes.
but he obviously works just as well on upland.
Yeah, he does. Yeah, he's great. He has both down. He has a hell of a nose for a upland bird dog, and he's flushed lots of pheasants. But no, I do more waterfowl, so that's what I focused on first. And now I'm just introducing him into the upland stuff as well.
So we're actually doing the podcast outside today in a tent at the Tabor Pheasant Festival. So you're hearing trucks in the background because they're moving birds around, getting ready for their next novice hunters. We actually had a couple of roosters just fly over the tent cackling. And I'm sure when you were handling your dog out there, we got the big reservoir behind us. The snow geese tornadoes that are coming in all morning, and the honkers are going out and the mallards are flying over. As a waterfowl hunter, was it a distraction?
A little bit. Yeah, it was. It makes you wondering where they're going to feed and which direction they're flying, so maybe later we can go find it.
You think exactly like I do. What are some key resources and places people can go to find information on dogs and training for hunting purposes?
Oh, it's all over. I can't say there's one place that's better than the other. I've learned a lot from, I have a few people, in the office at ACA who've trained dogs, and they're a great resource. So if you know someone who's trained dogs, use them, because they're probably the best resource you have, because they have experience and they'll be able to share your stories. But you go on YouTube, and whatever you're training for that day, there's always videos on there. Cornerstone Gun Dog Academy, I've used them. They're great as well.
That's the nice part about this digital age, is there's information not just to read, but to actually see how people are training a dog firsthand.
Yes.
Get that visual perspective and know exactly what you're doing when you're going out in the field. And if you need a refresher, you pull out your phone and sit your dog down and look at it again.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what I do. If I was training, before I'd train, I'd go on my computer, go on YouTube, and look at the videos of what I was doing. Okay, that's what I'll do. Then I'd go out, and, after I was like, I wonder if I did that right. You go back on your computer, or whatever. Or if you know someone who's done that, you call them up and, I'm working on this. How did you do this? Every dog's different, but they have their stories of how it worked for them. So you can kind of incorporate that into your training as well.
Right. The reason I brought it up is because I think a lot of people find hunting intimidating to get into. So training a dog on top of it could be, but it is a lot of fun. It's rewarding, and there's never really been an easier time to get that information. The first dog I had to, I read the Gun Dog, Water Dog, I think it was. Yep. I forget who wrote it, but it was kind of the Bible in the day, and you had to sit down and read the whole book and try to remember it all when you're in the field and do it right. But being able to have the videos and all the different references that we have today makes it pretty special, pretty easy to do. It
does. It really does. It's, like you said, it can't be any more easy, and it's a lot of fun, enjoyment.
Yeah.
A dog is, if you're consistent with what you're trying to teach them, and it might not be the right way. I know I've probably trained my dog differently than if you've trained dogs in the past, right?
Right.
But as long as you're consistent with it, they'll get the message, and you'll be able to train them to however you want to.
Right. Have you got any advice for the listeners? Any personal advice as a first-time dog trainer?
I think I've said already, but you gotta have fun, especially when they're a puppy this first year. Don't put too much pressure on them. They're not going to be exactly how you want them to be, even though you think that they should be. They're not. Have fun with it. If you feel you're getting frustrated, then stop training. Go to having fun playing with them for that day, and go back to it to the next day. They're always going to be there, and if you're not having fun, they can sense that, and they won't be having fun either. And be consistent.
Well, I can tell you have passion for it. You should have had a dog years ago, and you will have your best hunting partner for many years to come, and it'll fulfill your hunting passion and make it more special. That's for sure.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And enjoying every minute of it.
So thanks for coming on the show today and sharing information, and hopefully you've encouraged someone to take that big step and add a dog to the family and get out and add dog training to your resume.
Yeah, you won't regret it. I know I didn't. So it's a great experience for sure.
Awesome. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
We hope to inspire people to reconnect with nature and appreciate where your food comes from by harvesting your own. For more information on getting started or to learn specifics about the Field to Fork experience, visit harvestyourown.ca and follow on Facebook and Instagram. Check back often for new material, recipes, and videos that are posted regularly. Please subscribe to Harvest Your Own podcast and take the time to rate and review the show to help us build a dedicated core of passionate hunters as our regular audience. Until next time, embrace the outdoors and all it has to offer. Thanks for joining us.